about, for example. Yeah?
No, about you. If you talk directly to the rabbi, you say, "Can the rabbi do this?" Huh? You don't say, "Can you do that?"
Correct. No, we're talking to the person. Yeah. Okay. Welcome. Those that are on YouTube and Facebook, those that are present. I'm speaking behind the plexiglass. Thanks for joining us. We started a new Chumash this week, the second book, which is Shmois. And this morning we're going to learn an excerpt from a mimer of the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, the author of the Tanya. And this mimer is from the book Torah. The parsha begins telling us who are the people. In other words, what are the names of the Jewish people that went down to Mitzrayim? We know that Yaakov and his family were living in Eretz Yisrael. Yosef was in Egypt, and they had to make their way down because there was a famine, and it's going to be better there. Finally reunited with Yosef, everything was going to be great. But we find a very big difference between when Torah enumerates who the names of the tribes in this parsha, and comparing that to the way it was a few parshas ago. Which, first of all, why do you have to repeat it all together? And second of all, it's different. Let's look at this. These are the names of the Yidden who are coming to Mitzrayim. And Yaakov, man and his family came, which means Yaakov and his children and their families. In Parshas Vayigash, it also says, when they actually went down, it says, these are the names. They went through all the names. Yaakov and his children. We have to understand, why does he have to say twice the fact that they came to Mitzrayim? Everything in Torah is so specific, so accurate. You don't know anything extra. There's obviously a message here. We also have to look at the differences between Parshas Vayigash and Parshas Shmois. So it's doubled, but they're different. The Khan over here in Parshas Shmois, it says, Habai Mitzrayim es Yaakov. The word es doesn't really have a translation, but many places in Torah you say es. Hashem created es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. Some people translate it as and, but it's like an extra word. Obviously, it has meaning, but it's not a literal. It doesn't have a word. It doesn't have a translation that you need to use it in order to understand what the context is. So why is it that in Parshas Vayigash it just says they came to Mitzrayim, and in Parshas Shmois he adds the word es. In addition to that, we have to understand Parshas Vayigash b'nei Yisrael, Yaakov uvanav, shekel Yaakov gamkem v'chal b'nei Yisrael. When in Parshas Vayigash, when he says these are the names of the sons of Israel that came, he says Yaakov and his sons. So he's kind of including Yaakov in this, but Yaakov is part of Bnei Yisrael. It's like saying Yisrael is just a different name for Yaakov. So if his sons are coming, you don't say his name again. Shakil Yaakov gamkem echal Bnei Yisrael. That Yaakov hu Yisrael, Yaakov is Yisrael. We know Bnei Yisrael to mean Yidden because it's a general term, but literally it means sons of Yaakov. His sons came. How do we know Yaakov is Yisrael? As the pasuk tells us, Yaakov Yamar et Shimcha Kim Yisrael. When Yaakov had the struggle with the angel, he changed his name, and the angel told him, from now on, your name is not going to be Yaakov, your name is going to be Yisrael. So it's the same thing. Bnei Yisrael, Jewish people, in this context refers to the sons of Yaakov. So how is it called Bnei Yisrael? And you say, these are the Bnei Yisrael that came, Yaakov. No, that's Yisrael. Okay, so far we have, why does Torah have to tell us the same concept a second time altogether? What do we need it for? We have it already in Vayigash. The names of everyone that came down. Number two, if you're already saying it, why is there an extra S here and not over there? And also, why are you including Yaakov in the list? If you just said it's the sons of Yaakov, obviously he's there. Or don't say the sons of Yaakov, but don't bring it twice. So the idea is you have to understand that when it comes to going into Mitzrayim, there are levels of descent. If we look closely at the words, when the Yidden talk about, when the tribes talk to Yosef, they say, Yared Yaradnu, descending we descended. We just say we came into Egypt. What's descending we descended? The double term Yared Yeradna represents something. It's one descent, and then there's another descent into Mitzrayim, which we're going to explain that spiritually this represents a double descent, a double low. And the same thing is the other way around. When we left Mitzrayim, it says, I'm going to take you up, meaning I'll take you out, I'll elevate you. And then it says again, Gam Ole, also up, which just like when we went in, we have this double term of descending twice. Going out, I'll elevate you, it also says twice. Hainu Beis Aliyah represents two elevations, which is one elevation above the next elevation. Now, if you look closely, he says the truth is, in Yitzias Mitzrayim, Lenis Alurak Pamachas, they only came up once. So when's the second time? There was no second elevation. But we say this double term. So the second term is going to be when Mashiach will come. We're talking about, if you look closely at the wording in the pasuk, it says, I'll lift you up from the poverty, which means the slavery and the suffering in Egypt, to the land that flows with milk and honey. Which honey here is honey from dates. But it only says once. I took you up, I'll take you up. So the second time, the second level is going to be when Mashiach will come, the ultimate Gula, it should be very speedily. So up until now, we have differences between Vayigash when it talks about the Shvatim coming to Mitzrayim, and differences between in Shmais when it talks about it. It's multiple differences, and the fact that it's repetitive is also a question. And then to explain this, let's look at this idea that we descended twice into Egypt. We come out, it says twice, but we don't have it twice. We only have it once. Second time, Mashiach will come. What's this connection to Mashiach? It says, the ways, like the days of going out of Mitzrayim, I will show you wonders. Meaning that there's a similarity between going out of Mitzrayim and going out of this Golus. Let's take the similarity even further. Just like in this case, the just like the whole going into Mitzrayim, what was the purpose of the suffering and the slavery for 210 years? It was only to have the schos, to merit, to be able to receive the Torah from Hashem, which that experience of receiving the Torah is panim dibar Hashem. Hashem is just get that for free. And the process of being in slavery in Egypt and whatever the side effects and the results of that process, that gave us that schos. Hashem tells Moshe, this is the sign to you. When you take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, you're going to serve the Yidden on this mountain. Expressing that the whole point of going in is in order to have a schos, to be able to serve Hashem. Similarly, this whole golus that we have now, which is very long, it's in order to have the Gilui, which will be by the second type of receiving of the Torah, which is Pnimius HaTorah, the internal part of Torah, which is going to be when Mashiach will come. Because when Torah was given the first time, in the Matan Torah, was the revealed Torah. But the inner parts of Torah, the revelation of those will only be when Mashiach will come. It's secrets of Torah. And that's going to be after the Geula. So just like in Mitzrayim, the Galus and the Shibud, the slavery and the suffering and all the work was in order to come to Matan Torah. Similarly, this whole long Galus is in order to come to the Torah Chadasha, which is going to be when Mashiach will come. And that's why he says, I'm going to show you wonders.
Revelation, then in relation when Mashiach comes should be proportional to the number of years of Galus.
Hopefully not. I mean,
hopefully yes.
Fair enough, but no more. No more. Yeah, it has to be 210 compared to thousands and thousands. Yeah, 100%. Okay. Like it says, Ayin ba'ayin yiru. It's so wondrous that the eye, with the eye, will see. Meaning, the ability to see and the opportunity that we're going to have when Mashiach comes to see in such a revealed way is going to be nothing beyond anything that we had till now. Okay, now if we go into the details, what kind of suffering did we have in Mitzrayim? The Torah tells us specifics. It says, they bittered their lives. They made their lives bitter. How? With hard work, literally slavery. with bricks and with cement, we call it clay. Okay. With all different types of work in the field. Each one of these stages, hard work, the idea of bricks and mortar, and working in the field, they represent different levels of what happens to the person or the neshama through that process. And this also applies to the final time. They bitter their lives. This idea of Torah. Torah is the concept of, which is our life. When they say they bittered their life, it means something in regards to Torah, because Torah is life. Aveda kasha, hard work. Hard, in Hebrew, is kasha, which is the same root word as kushya, which means question. So the idea of hard work represents questioning. So this process of suffering in Mitzrayim is Torah. Life is Torah. Hard work is questions, which is the idea of trying to understand. You learn, you have a question, you try to figure it out. The questioning is the process. The chaymer, which is the material used, is reminiscent of the kal v'chaymer, which is one of the ways of learning where you compare one thing to another and you say, if in such a lenient case, you say A, B, and C, so how much more so in a more strict case, or vice versa. When you say every work in the field, that talks about braisas, which are the unpublished mishnahs, but that concept. So literally it means bricks, but lavan is white, and it means libun hilchasa, to whiten the law, to figure out, to clarify. So all of these expressions within Torah is alluding to the idea of learning, and through the learning, that's how we get to that result that after Mitzrayim we could receive the Torah. We don't have in our hands a clear halacha on a very clarified rule. All the dinim of Torah are learned through machlekes. There's one opinion, there's another opinion. You figure out the reasoning behind them. That process is how we learn. And these are saying that it's kosher and it's pure. And these, which means this opinion says it's not allowed and it's impure. And by going through that whole effort, trying to figure out and learning, that's how we achieve it. Just like through the work in Mitzrayim, the slavery in Mitzrayim, with chaymer and milvenim, which means these levels of hard work, we merited to receive the Torah. Similarly, through learning Torah these days, which means it doesn't have to be suffering in Mitzrayim, in Golus, but the effort that a person puts in to try to an answer from the Rabbi, multiple answers about someone that was complaining about money issues, his worries about. The Rabbi tells him that if he worries, so to speak, if he puts an effort in learning, so that the quote headache of trying to figure it out and will take away from the headache in other places. In other words, if this person wants to avoid having to worry and other stuff, get your stress from learning, and you won't have to get the stress in other places. But you see here a similar concept that through the process of learning, which is hard, it's difficult, and it's the mind and so on. That's how we're zeicha to Perek Hadash. We have to understand more, with Hashem on Thursday, what it means whitening the halacha. That's that concept. Thanks for joining in person, Facebook and YouTube. See you again soon.